Here's an update on striper fishing in the canal by End Eddie Doherty, a retired Massachusetts court clerk magistrate appointed by the late Governor A. Paul Cellucci, author of 7 Miles After Sundown about surf casting the Cape Cod Canal for striped bass.
So fishing has been great on the canal. The month of July was terrific. Guys were catching fish up and down the canal, all different sizes, 30, 40 pounders, plenty of bait. There's Tinker Max and whiting everywhere. So it's really been a lot of fun, a lot of different fish caught. And so Hollywood Petrarca continues to do very well, catching plenty of 40-inch fish. And Bill on the Grill Produce has been having a great season as well. Billy caught so many fish the other day, he couldn't remember how many he caught. And he actually took his wife Tina to Manhattan for a week vacation during July. So the fish were very happy about that because they weren't being caught by Bill. Just before he left, he caught a 35-pounder. My biggest fish in the month of July was 31 pounds, measured out to 45 inches. And I caught that on the surface with a guppy jobo, a white jobo junior. The fish weren't breaking that day, so it was a blind cast, and I got lucky in the right spot. But you know, my wife Joanne and I have 2 daughters, Caitlin and Christine, and our youngest, Christine, has been asking me to get her a fish for the table. And so I'm trying to catch a slot fish. I've caught a lot of fish that were below slot and above slot, but the 3-inch window on a slot fish now is sometimes it's hard to catch. So the slot, of course, is 28 inches to less than 31, and it's less than 3 inches. So I finally landed a slot the other day with a Bill Hurley canal killer, a white canal killer, and so I brought home it was less than 31 inches, and I cleaned that fish and gave it to Christine. So her family had a nice fish dinner that night. It was swimming in the morning, they had it for dinner. It doesn't get any fresher than that. So, some of the things you see on the canal, you don't see every day, I'll tell you. I was fishing with a bunch of guys in the West End. We're elbow to elbow, about 30 guys, and when you're that close, you really have to fish in sequence, take turns. So the guy on the west side, on the mainland side, is number 1, and next to him is 2, and so forth. It goes all the way to 30. There were 30 guys that day. And so you cast in sequence, and by the time number 30 casts, and his line is clear, he yelled down the line, number 1, you're all set to go again. And so this goes on and on. Well, I was number 4 this day, and number 3 had just cast. And so I'm about to put my lure just to the left of number 3's lure, and a big whale surfaces, the tail's splashing. And so I adjusted a little, and I landed my lure right behind the whale's tail. Fortunately, the whale was swimming to the right and kept going to Buzz's Bay. I didn't want to hook a whale in the canal or any place. And about a week ago, I was fishing at Uptuxet on the mainland, on the Cape side, and at that time the fish were pretty much following a pattern. They would show up every day about a half hour later every day. And so on this day, if the pattern held true, it looked like the fish would be there in about 20 minutes to start breaking. So I was just kind of biding my time, just waiting, and this lady walks by with a dog. She's walking the dog on a leash, starts talking to me. Nice lady. And so I told her I was just waiting for the fish to show up. So she left and started walking with her dog towards Bell Road, came back in about 10 minutes, and I heard her behind me talking to the dog. And she said, that guy's still waiting for the fish. And the dog nodded, so apparently he understood. We have a good friend in Kentucky, Jim Mittenswy. He's a great fisherman, but he's never fished the canal. He has it on his bucket list. And he was telling Joanne and I a story about, his wife's name is Joanne also, and he took his wife Joanne to Paris for the wedding anniversary. So we thought that was great. And my Joanne is just praising him. Oh, that's such a romantic idea. That was great you did that. Wow, that is really terrific. What a beautiful idea. And then we found out that there's a town in Kentucky called Paris, Kentucky. So he took his wife, he didn't take his wife to Paris, France, he took her to Paris, Kentucky. But that's okay, close enough. So there's a great guy in the canal, Dave Torek, who's had some medical issues, and we've been rooting for Dave. He's a great guy and a great fisherman. Well, a few weeks ago, Dave was fishing near the Sagamore Bridge. and he had a fish on, and he noticed on his left a gentleman fell down on the canal. These rocks can be treacherous, and the guy hit his head. He had a lump in his head. He's bleeding. His arms are all cut up. So as soon as Dave released the fish, he went over to help the man, and he got the guy. He helped him up the riprap stone bank and got him on a bike. And Dave had his own bike, so the guy was riding back to his vehicle, and Dave is such a nice guy, he rode his own bike behind this guy. He didn't even know this guy, and there's fish in the water, but Dave is such a good guy, he rode his bike behind that guy's bike just to ensure that he got to his car safely. And his kindness paid off. The next day, Dave caught a 48-inch striper, which is a personal best for him. And so, you know, I was so happy for Dave after what he's been through that, you know, I was happier that Dave caught that fish than had I caught it myself. So good for him. So a few other guys have responded to our request for the honor roll. Not all these guys contacted me. I found out from some of these guys wouldn't even ask to be on this list, but some other guys have responded. So our 40-inch honor roll, which basically lists guys who have caught at least one 40-inch fish this year, because 40 inch is pretty much the gold standard now for striped bass. To add to that list, we've got Glenn Lindsay, Scott Ewell, Dave Turek, Paul Sherinsky, Zach Baker, Joe the Real McCoy, and Real is R-E-E-L, the Real McCoy, Mark Beckford, Maggie Crowley, Brian Crowley, Josh Webster, Rob Stork, and Rick Roy, who's actually fishing here today with his son. So my tip of the month is that if you need air for your tires on a bike, on your canal bike, or even if you're not a fisherman, a lot of people ride bikes on the canal who aren't fishermen, but there's a nice pump, an air pump right next to the DCR building where the fish pier is, the state fish pier is. It's on the west side of the building. And it's a nice pump. You don't have to put a quarter in or anything. It's all free. They actually have tools there as well. And they have wrenches and screwdrivers for something that you might want to make a quick repair for. So if you need air in your tires, just keep that in mind. And so until next time, catch a big one.
Want your nice canal catch mentioned? Email the details to eastendeddie789@yahoo.com.